All right, so welcome to the Adobe Express training. The previous training we did was on a platform called Canva, and Canva is a really great graphic design tool also, but it isn't accessible for our younger students. So Adobe Express, Adobe has a huge platform, huge amount of options within their platforms. You are probably quite familiar with Adobe Reader, your PDFs open with it. We do a lot of things with Adobe. We do have a district license with Adobe, and some of our students at the secondary level have what's called Creative Cloud licensing now. So we're switching that over so that they can actually use the Adobe suite in their classes at school and then on a device at home. So we are moving towards that. Adobe Express is like a light version of all of these things. It is free for education, so all educators can use it, and our students do have access to it through their district email accounts. And so it's a safe way for them to access that and to have the full range of products. Similar to like Canva, if you were to sign up for Adobe with your personal account, there would be, you could use it, but there would be certain things that were paid features or premium features, I think they call them here. And so because we have our educator license and the students have the same education access, we will be able to use all the features within the platform. Adobe Express, which it's a rebranding also. This has been around for a while. It used to be called Adobe Spark, and it was like 3 separate programs. So if you've heard that before, if you've heard of teachers making Adobe Spark videos, that's all here within this platform. They're rebranding and repackaging everything into Adobe Express, and it's going to live all in one place now. Today, we're going to focus on creating graphics. So you can think of a graphic as sort of a static type of thing, an infographic, a flyer, a worksheet, something that you could print out if you wanted to. The other 2 things you can create, you and your students can create in Adobe Express, are videos and web pages. And it's single page only. It's not a website. They can't develop a website. And if I was to describe what this web page is, it's essentially another way to make like a slide presentation, but instead of clicking through slides, it would scroll like you would on a web page. So it's kind of a unique way for students to represent their learning. It is something we're going to get into in November. I'm going to schedule a session for creating videos. And then in December, probably December, unless we run short on time because of the holiday, then we'll pick it up a second semester. We'll talk about how to do the pages. But I do believe that once you get into the platform and start clicking around and playing with it, you'll probably be able to figure out the other 2 pieces as well if you're interested. You don't have to wait until November or January or December. So I am in the platform now. If you want to kind of play along today, if you have the capacity of 2 screens and you're able to watch the presentation and play along, I am going to give you some time to do that. We are also, some of you probably saw an email from Rick Vonk recently that our Adobe licenses, things are switching with that. And so we are in a bit of a transition. So I do believe you're going to be able to get logged in today, but just in case, if not, I will just give you a demo. So honestly, the way I get to Adobe, I just type in Adobe Express and find whatever the first hit is there. And then it's got me already signed in. There's usually a sign in button up here. And you're going to sign in. Let me see if I can log out and try it again. Or was it going to ask me to log in? You're going to want to sign in with the school account, Adobe School ID account. And then you're just going to use your school district email and your normal school district password. So go ahead and try that. See if you can get signed in. Okay. So I just want to give you kind of a quick tour of the space that we're in. Very similar, like I said, if you were in the Canva training last time, we have templates or guides for different types of things that we could look at. We could search for specific templates up at the top if there's something specific that we are interested in. We can create things from scratch. And so there are a lot of different things. The icon next to it really kind of indicates what type of item it is. So the report and the web page and the portfolio, those are all those web page designs I told you about. We can make a graphic, a custom graphic. We can do videos. So we're going to get into all of those in future videos. For today, I actually want to talk to you, have you try using a link, a template. So I'm going to give you the link in the chat to the Adobe Express webpage. So it should take you to this website, that link. And where I want us to start today is by clicking on the Super Teacher Flyer link. It's going to open and ask you if you want to remix this design. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And this is what it looks like. It's a template that I found within their platform. And all you have to do is click remix this design. And we're going to play around with a few of the how to use the program by playing with one of the templates that already exists. And modeling is a teaching tool that we use all the time with our students, right? And if you were going to have your students start creating, I 100% would recommend doing something similar. Even if you want to create your own simple template and then share it with the students, which I can get into how to do that as well. It's a really good way for them to start by having something already there and then learning how to use the tools. Okay, so I think I told this secret in the last session, but if you didn't watch, the secret to my success in my current role as an educator is that I'm not afraid to click all the buttons, right? Like the way that I go about learning how to use a program is I just go in and play. And that's what today is going to be about. I'm going to give you some suggestions and some guides, but my goal for you is to spend some time playing around, clicking on the buttons and see what happens. So the first thing I want us to start with is looking at this text at the top, the title of the flyer. So if we click on it, we can see that the white box goes around there so we know what item on the flyer we're working on. And you'll notice that a toolbar showed up here on the right-hand side. So if I click off of that, the toolbar is a simple toolbar with some other things. If we click on the text, we have now the text itself. So if I want to change what that says, I can change that. So let's see, I'm even though I'm a teacher on special assignment. So I'm going to change the text over here on the right. And you notice on my flyer, it automatically changes. Okay, you don't have to change what it says. You guys are going to make your own Super Teacher Flyer. We can change our main color by clicking here. And this is the current color palette. So right now, these are the colors that are being used in this flyer. One of the things that I think is really cool with this Adobe program is they give you some suggestions for how to change. I'm getting ahead of myself. So if I click outside of here, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself with the color palette. We'll come back to that. So you can choose different colors from the color palette. We're going to change this color palette later. So play with it for now, but know that we're going to change it a little bit in the future. You can drill down to different fonts here and you can see what they look like. Kind of like this one. And if you click on it, it will change right there for you. I'm going to go back to that other one. But what I like about this is if we come down here and we look at these font recommendations, we actually have some different ideas, and you get to see really visually how they look right there. And we can even explore more of those. Right, so we really get, this one is kind of cool. We really get a feel for visually how to change that, which is nice. I think that's a good thing for students, especially our younger students. Sometimes when they have an entire list of fonts, maybe that is too overwhelming, you might direct them to the font recommendations and tell them they can choose something from that list without going too crazy. We can also do things with our alignment, the opacity of the font, so you see that it's getting a little lighter on the page. So we can change how opaque or transparent the font is. And then we can also play with things like the shadow. So right now it has a shadow. If I turn this off, oh, actually, what did we do? What kind of shadow did we get? That's interesting. So take some time, play around with that, see if you find something that you like. Turned our outline off. I just like playing with the different elements. If we want to resize or change where this is on the page, anytime you in almost all the programs, if you see 4 arrows, that means you're going to move an item versus 2 arrows, which is going to be to resize. So you see my cursor changes from 4 arrows. If I click there, I can move it anywhere I want on the page. If I want to undo those options, Command or Control Z will undo it. Or we have undo arrows up top. So I usually like to teach the students that too. One of the things I see, especially the younger kids, but really all kids, wasting a lot of time is trying to get things back the way they were when they don't like them, right? So maybe they move it over here and then they don't like it, but now they don't remember exactly where it was to start with. So that undo button or Control or Command Z, depending on what device they're working on, is a really good trick to try and get them to just leave it alone and get it back to where we were, right? If we don't like the angle that this is at, we can use this. We just click and hold, and then we can turn it whatever direction we want. And we see that, I don't know if you can see it in the recording, but we do get some guidelines that pop up, some red lines that kind of help us to know where things are lined up with other elements on the page. Like I can see right now that this is perfectly level. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back to where it was, but I am going to make it a little bit bigger since I changed my from teacher to TOSA. We can make mine a little bit bigger. Let's look at the image. So next thing we're going to do is click on the image. We have some options that we can play with the image. If you have another image on your device, you can just replace this. And in order to replace it, you just click replace. If you can upload a photo from your device, if you have it. I was playing with something else earlier. We'll go for this one. Oh, poor Obi is not showing. There I am with my 3 lovely cats. You have to believe me that Obi's sitting on my lap in that picture. They are all 3 there. But one of the things you can do right in Adobe that is a very handy thing is you can actually remove the background from images. It's not the fast. Oh, see, there's the cat. Now you can see her. And you can customize how much of that cut out or restore certain parts. Like if I decided, oh, this part in here, I really want to still include the cats. I just don't want the top part. You can get pretty fancy. For a pretty lightweight program, you can get pretty fancy with it. Okay. And we'll check to accept that. So now you see that the top part I eliminated, but the cats I put back in. Still poor Obius doesn't, let's see, we can maybe move up now a little bit. Or we'll just put it, so we have layers here, so I can layer that above that bar so that little Obi can be a part of the game. That does not look good, but we're just playing, right? If we can also add filters, right? So we have different filters that we can play with to get decorative. That's kind of cool. And this is one of those things that even if you don't have another picture that you can insert, you can, with the picture of the guy that's on there, you can play with some of the different tools. So what, I don't know if you noticed, but either I turn on, I can turn on the enhancements or turn them off, but once they're on, this little caret is what pops down and shows me the different things that I can adjust within there. So enhancements would change the contrast. Some of those things get adjusted when you adjust the filters. We can blur the image. We can change how much it's blurred. I don't think that's really the best option. And again, if I don't like any of that, I can just undo all of it and get it back to where we were originally. Okay, so any image that you have on a, or any element even, we're going to play with these shapes later, but there's always going to be a replace button. And so that is why finding templates and using the templates is really, really great, because it's not like you have to go over and find the thing and then move it in. You can click on whatever you want to change. Like this shape in the back, I could just click replace and choose a totally different shape. So it's really easy to change and edit the different elements that are on this flyer. And I don't know also if you noticed down here in the bottom right, we have 10 layers. So Adobe in this flyer, each element is being layered. And so you saw me hitting the layer order button to move my image so that I'm pointing to the computer like you can see it, so that the image popped up. We can move it all the way to the top in one bump, or we can just move it up. So that moved it up one layer, move it up another layer, move it up even another layer, right? So it layered it. I don't know if you saw the difference. So here it went behind the shape and behind the font. Now I'm moving it in front of the shape, but behind the font. And now it's going to go and completely block the font altogether. So within here, you can actually expand your layers and see what you have. All of those layers that are in there, from the background to this, like these starburst lines that are here, to the title. All those layers are there for you to see and edit and access if you want to. And just as an aside, this remove background option is available just as a quick action. You don't have to create a project. If you have some other image that you wanted to take the background off of, you can use Adobe Express for that. So you could do that anytime you want as well. And I can show you that's from the home screen. One of the quick actions is remove background. So you would just open that up, drop your image there, and it will take the background right out for you. So that's pretty fancy. Also, this is a good moment, a good teaching moment. Do you see that I have a lot of projects that are called My Project, which will make it a little bit difficult to look for it later? Let's talk about how we can rename our projects, and let's go ahead and do that now. Up here in the top left, it says My Project, and you can see your from home to projects, follow the breadcrumb trail. Just click inside there. And I'm just going to name it my Super Tosa flyer and hit enter. And now it's renamed. So now when I go back into my projects, And it does save automatically. Now it actually has its real name. We'll go back in there. All right, now is when I want to talk about this color palette. So if we click in this sort of dead space around the outside, we get just this toolbar here with some other options for our whole flyer. The one I want to look at is this color palette. One of the things that's really nice about Adobe is it's an artist tool to start with. And so we have like actual artists behind Adobe who have designed color palettes that you have access to here. So this current color palette has the blue and the green, which I don't actually see the green. But these are the colors that are in this palette. You can very easily go through and select from any of these other color palettes. Oh, let's pick this one. And you see it just automatically changes all of those elements to different colors. So that's another really nice tool to show to students. And we can shuffle which element. See, I kind of like that one best of all of them. So you can shuffle those. It's a really nice, easy way for students to choose something so that it represents their likes a little bit more without having to touch each individual element. And they are learning a little bit about how colors work well together and getting samples and examples of how in design we want to choose colors that work well with each other. And these are just a few, right? These professional ones, we could look at, there's even more if we expand that. Well, let's throw some orange in there. That's like Pepperdine colors right there. We'll stick with it. So find yourself a color palette that you like. Within this flyer, there are a couple different places where there are shapes. And so these little accents up here are actually shapes. If I click it and drag it in, you can see that it's a whole star. So we talked about this a little bit in the Canva design PD as well, that we don't always have to have the whole shape on our flyer to look good visually. Sometimes hanging images and things off the edge is a good design choice. But maybe I am not that interested in these stars as my explosion. I'm going to hit the replace button. And over here, I have access now to 14 other star shapes that I could choose from. So maybe I'll choose this one instead. Did we change? It's the same one. Maybe I'll choose this one. Or I think I did this one on the training, and then we can turn it a little bit to get both elements there. But what if I don't like stars? What if I want to choose something else? Well, if I hit this back arrow here, or even go to basic shapes, now I have some other options. Maybe I'm going to go with more of a flower shape. I kind of like this sunburst looking thing. Oops. Should be able to replace that. There we go. So now I have this kind of a starburst shape maybe instead, and then I'm going to replace this one. Oh, let's see what something more geometric looks like. All right, so you get the idea. And again, with all of these shapes, we can change the color. You can choose a different color from that color palette. Maybe I'm going to throw some green in there. But you notice that that color palette now is the new one that I chose. So I can choose other colors from that color palette specifically. We can also change the thickness of that. Oh, that's kind of cool. The thickness of the line on the outside of that. That looks cool. And the opacity, again, so if we want to make it a little lighter so that some of that background stuff shows through. We can also just go ahead and add a shape if we wanted. So maybe I'm going to put a computer on mine. All right, we can get our shrink that a little bit, put it inside my computer, and then throw the whole thing back behind that layer. There we go. Get the idea? So on the left, we have all the different things, the different elements that are here. We can add them ourselves, right? We could have just come here and added another photo, but any of the elements that exist already on the screen, we can click on them, hit replace, edit what's there. So let's go ahead. I'm going to move this image back to the back. Let's go ahead and edit the font to fill in your information. So again, something to notice, if you click here in the middle of what looks like a text box, what you're really clicking on is the shape that is holding space behind your font. So it's not a text box really. The text box itself is the small part. So if you want to edit the words, we have to click right on the words. And as I'm doing that, you can notice if I click on the word, it says edit text up here to the right. If I click on the box, it changes to edit shape. So that may be a tricky sticking point for some of your students because they are used to just clicking inside maybe to get into a text box. So go ahead and click where it says name. And remember to edit our font. We're going to go actually up here to the right. And fill out your flyer to match your information. And notice how my text box now has changed to a shape that doesn't fit in my line. So again, 4 arrows is going to move. Wow. Move my font. That was a little delayed. 2 arrows will stretch that box bigger. What we really want to do is stretch it out with these 2 arrows. There's like bars on the side if you see on the text box. And if we stretch that out, now it fits within there a little bit better. And I can probably even, from that white ball, make it a little bit bigger. And we can change the size of our font specifically over here as well. What size is this one? 20. We'll bump that to 24 also. Your social handle. I don't tweet much anymore, but there it is. And I don't know what the teaching superpower is. I'm going to say that my teaching superpower is empowering others. It's always my goal is to help people understand and believe that they are fully capable of doing all of these things as well. That's too big. So there you have it. We have edited our title. We have talked about the color, changing the color and our color palette. We have changed our shapes and talked a little bit about how to hang them off the edge. One of the things we haven't talked about yet is this background. And remember, I showed you the layers that we have here. The very back layer, this background, is just a solid blue color. So you can edit even the background. We can choose a different color if we wanted a specific color for that. Or if you wanted within the color to make it a little bit lighter and play with just the hues there, you can do that. On a generic note, like if you started from scratch, there are all kinds of backgrounds that are maybe images, even some of the trending backgrounds. We have like doodle backgrounds. So there are a lot of things if you're starting from scratch, but if you wanted to get to the background, sometimes it's hard to click on it here. And actually when I clicked there, you saw that it took me to the layer with this like sort of burst, the lines. And we could even change the color of those. Right now they're the dark blue. I could change those to green on there if I wanted. But if we click on the layers to get down to the background, that's probably the easiest way if you want to change the background on a template. Instead of trying to click through all the layers in the flyer itself, it's easiest to come down here. Oh, that's this shape. Got it. So if you knew you wanted to make a flyer and you're going to print them out on just regular paper, we can go here to custom size. And you can do by pixels, but we want to go then by inches. And we'll do 8.5 by 11 and hit next. And that will give you a blank canvas that is the specific size that you want. In the Canva training, we talked about Google Classroom banners and creating those. You can do that here as well. The tools and the options and things that you have in Adobe Express are a little bit less advanced than in Canva. That's why I like it for younger students anyways, because it is not as complicated, so they can't get too far into the weeds like you can with Canva. Oh, I know what else I want to show you. I'm going to go back to that project that I was working on. And actually, maybe I'll show you some of the things that I created when I was at that training. So we had an assignment that they gave us while we were there. And the assignment was we were to create a book cover for a book that we could write about teaching during the pandemic. So I thought that was an interesting thing. And so I'll show you what I started with. We had to come up with a title for our book and then create, we were supposed to get a template. I actually ended up creating mine from scratch. But what I wanted to show you is as I was going, we were supposed to come up with multiple versions, play with different options. And then we met with a peer who gave us some feedback about our different options. So this is just one. But I actually ended up creating 7 within this same thing where I just moved the font to different places. You can see I played a little bit with the transparency of the image. And so how did I do that and why did I do that? That's actually something that I do often when I feel like I've gotten close to how I want my flyer or my graphic to look, but I want to fiddle with a few things. What I will do is I will duplicate the page. And so I will just create another one that's exactly the same so that I have like a clean copy. And then I think of the second one as my working copy. So as I was creating each of these, I really just duplicated it and then fiddled with the new one and then duplicated it again and fiddle with that one. And then once you decide which one you want, you can actually rearrange the order of these if you want to. and have a lot of freedom. That way you don't have to feel like, oh, if you mess, like you get too far down and you don't want to have to back things up too much. That's a good way to show the students how to play with that as well.